This is a declassified overview from the Global Defense Force archives, a reconstruction of the event code named the Leviathan's Gambit. The official Global Defense Force after-action report begins now. What follows is an analysis of a catastrophic operational failure and a complete re-evaluation of the abyssal threat as we know it.
All right, Section 1, a perfect trap. We're going to start by reconstructing our own strategic miscalculation, which was, unfortunately, based on our initial intelligence assessment.
You see, our initial intelligence painted a picture of a destructive but predictable creature. But Dr. Thorne's analysis, it suggested something far more deliberate. He pointed out that the target wasn't just on a random rampage. No, it was actively reshaping coastlines, literally carving deep water channels to systematically flood areas inland. This was a critical distinction that our strategic models completely failed to account for.
The target, of course, was Leviathan, an abyssal class alpha. Its objective was confirmed: aggressive coastal terraforming. Now, at the time, we interpreted this as simple territorial expansion, animal instinct. That interpretation, it turned out to be a catastrophic misjudgment.
So, in response, Major Eva Rostova devised what everyone considered a flawless ambush. The plan was simple, it was elegant, and it was based on all of our known behavioral data. The idea was to lure Leviathan into a narrow fjord, a perfect natural choke point, where we'd already planted subterranean charges. We could detonate them for maximum effect. On paper, it was the perfect trap.
Which brings us to Section 2, the kill box. The execution phase, which we codenamed Operation Fjord Fury, went off without a hitch. It proceeded exactly as planned, which frankly only reinforced Command's confidence. Here's the chronological log.
The operation was textbook. We guided the target right into the designated kill box. It hit every single temporal checkpoint with absolute precision. Right at T0, Leviathan was perfectly positioned, and the detonation signal was sent.
Now, let's talk about the ordnance. The GDF committed a significant payload to this operation. The total yield remains classified, but I can tell you our projections indicated a 100% probability of target neutralization. Let me be clear, there was no mathematical scenario we could run where the target survived that blast.
And that brings us to Section 3, the counter gambit. Because at the exact moment of detonation, the event deviated from all projections. This is where our perfect trap failed, and where our gambit, tragically, became theirs.
The official projected outcome was simple, absolute, complete annihilation of the target. This was supposed to be a decisive, clean victory for the GDF.
But the reality was catastrophic. An unanticipated variable emerged out of nowhere, leading to a total failure of the primary objective. We were the ones who walked into the kill box. The trap, it turns out, wasn't just for Leviathan.
This unknown variable was a second abyssal entity. We've codenamed it Trenchbreaker. It emerged from a hidden cavern, one that was completely masked from our sonar just fractions of a second before detonation. It moved to position itself directly over Leviathan, and it absorbed the entire force of the blast with its impenetrable shell. This wasn't a random encounter, it was a shield.
So let's look at the breakdown. We projected a neutralized target and a secure GDF fleet. The reality? A shielded, completely unharmed target and the total loss of the GDF Pacific Fleet. They were systematically dismantled by both entities after they just walked out of the blast, totally unscathed.
The entire post-event analysis really boiled down to a single critical question. And that brings us to our final section, a complete and frankly overdue reassessment of abyssal intelligence.
So, was this a failure of tactics, or was it a catastrophic failure of intelligence? Major Rostova's plan was tactically sound, given the data we had. But what if the data itself was just fundamentally wrong?
Well, Dr. Tanaka's deep dive into the post-event sensor logs revealed something chilling. The abyssals had actively anticipated and countered our systems. This was no coincidence. Think about it. They manipulated sonar reflections to hide that cavern. They created decoy turbulence to mask Trenchbreaker's movement. They were acting in perfect, terrifying coordination.
But the real smoking gun, the most critical piece of data, was a coordinated energy spike between Leviathan and Trenchbreaker, fractions of a second before we sprung the ambush. It was a signal, it was communication, and that confirmed the true nature of what happened here. This wasn't an animal walking into a trap. This was a coordinated military countermaneuver.
This single event forced the GDF to completely redefine the nature of abyssal interaction. We have a new term for it now: strategic symbiosis. And this isn't just about two creatures acting in tandem. No, this is evidence of planning, of communication, of a shared tactical objective. It's the calling card of a truly thinking enemy.
So, in the end, the Leviathan's Gambit completely shattered our core assumption. We went in believing we were fighting powerful, destructive monsters. The hard reality is this: we now know we are fighting a coordinated, intelligent strategist. End of transmission. GDF Directive 09. Intelligence recommends reassessment of Leviathan's cognitive capabilities.